All right, it is Wednesday, September 22nd. It's the first day of fall. There's an equinox, a vernal equinox, an invernal equinox. There's some stuff going on. You're going to learn some things today on TJRS, and I would check it out on Wikipedia or otherwise here just for confirmation. And with that, here's Riggo.
I'm going to state unequivocally that I don't think there's an invernal equinox. I think there is a vernal equinox and an autumnal equinox, which is the fall equinox.
I always thought there was the vernal equinox, which is
and
spring,
an invernal,
and an invernal equinox, which is the autumnal, which you called autumnal.
Get it up. He's charging. He's charging. Well, whatever it is, today is March 25th.
Oh, jeez, Louise. First day of fall.
I know, September.
Crappy day outside.
I'm back at that invernal. It's not a very pleasant day here in the nation's capital. Just so muggy. I mean, good God. The rain and all this stuff. A little depressing. I don't know exactly where to start. I do know I put in 3 hours of hard work yesterday. I've got this, mulch that's bagged and sitting in the back of my truck. I've already done it once. And it's something I put out, and I realized something's going on. I think ever since I got that PMR, remember we talked about that polymyalgia, I ain't been right physically. I can't do anything anymore. I mean, I can't hardly even get up in the bed of my pickup truck. I've got these orthopedic issues, I guess, my knees, like I'm falling apart, but there's part of you that keeps... That tells, well, you got to do it, which I guess maybe that's, why I didn't quit football when I was a freshman in high school, because there's that part of you that goes, no, you can do this, but you don't want to do it. But yeah, I mean, yesterday was a rough day, and the weird thing is it wasn't particularly warm, but I mean, I was out there sweating like I was going to the electric chair. Water, sweat dripping off your face and stuff, which to me is one of the most annoying things you can have. But yeah, I got this stuff down, and like I said, I had to take a break in the middle of it, go in, take your boots off, go back inside, sit at the table, pour yourself a glass of ice water, sit there for about 15, 20 minutes, and try to decide, am I going to go back out there again, or am I just going to stay where I am? So I ended up going back out. I got pretty much done what I wanted to, but I still got about, another 20 bags of this stuff that I got to get rid of. But let me get into something on a bit of good news, that finally there is peace in the Riggins household between the feline members that live there.
When we last left off, yes. there was a sex change. Well, not a sex change.
The Emperor Mung. Yeah, well, it was. We were a little confused on that, and I don't know where he is now, but yeah, he'd just come back from the doctors, and he'd had his testicles removed, and the poor guy was. You can only imagine. Here you are. You're probably still half under an anesthetic. He's got this cone on his head to keep him from licking those. He's got that on his head. He comes home, and the one thing in his life that gives him a reason for living is the Emperor Mung, who now has joined MS-13, and he's saying, hey, punk, you got your dirt in my hole, get your dirt out of my hole. I mean, he has completely blindsided by all this, and nobody, and I appreciate all the viewers and or listeners that had different ideas as to what caused this, having come from the vet. We discussed it again last night. I had Hannah, my oldest daughter, was over, and Coco, and we all discussed it one more time. And we come up with the idea that it has to be the smell, that there was something about
his... We got some great feedback from the viewers out there that referenced that and said it was probably the difference in the smells at the vet, that in a gang of punk cats at the vet.
Well, exactly. Keep in mind, think of all the odors that are at a vet. First of all, Emperor Mung has been there, and he probably doesn't really think very highly of the veterinarian's office, so now it's coming to his house. But you've also got, dogs coming in and out of there, so there's dog smells that who knows how that, when you're wrapped in, when I say wrapped, but that all the molecules that are floating around in the air, the medicines and all this stuff, I'm almost positive that's what it has to be. And then Hannah told me last night, which I didn't realize this, that cats, the one thing we always think about cats is they got great eyes, they can see in the dark. Well, they can see in the dark, but their eyesight really isn't all that good. compared to humans. We actually have better eyesight than cats, although we can't see at night. According to her now, I didn't look any of this stuff up.
She's been working with cats for quite some time now. She knows,
that's true. She does. The breeder
around a cat.
Where both these cats came from, a breeder over in Great Falls, and that must have been where she learned this. But so smell is very critical. And to give you an idea, and anybody can do this, how many times have you been someplace and all of a sudden, now this has more to do with our sense of memory, but our sense of smell has really fallen off over the evolution of our species. I mean, years and years ago, thousands and thousands of years ago, humans probably had a pretty good sense of smell, but for whatever reason, it's tapered off. But the thing I've always noticed is that every so often I'll be hit with an odor. And most of the time it's driving down the road. I'll give you a classic example. Years ago, I had a piece of property outside of Leesburg, Virginia on the river, and I was driving down there on Route 7. I had the windows down, and I'm driving along, and it's exactly at noon. And I forget what radio station I was listening to, but whatever one, it might have been WMAL, because I think they play the national anthem at noon, don't they?
I think WMZQ does.
Okay, well, it was MZQ. Whoever it was, and it came on. Now, you got to remember, this is in the dead of summer. The highway crews are out, and they're mowing the median. And all of a sudden, I'm smelling this grass, fresh cut grass, and national anthem, and all of a sudden, I start getting goosebumps.
Game day.
Yes, it has to be what it was. The odor of that grass with that song. That was a two-timer. In other words, not only was it the smell of the grass, but also the music put together a whole scenario for me. And so many times, and it hadn't happened of late. Years ago, I was on the Eastern Shore, and I'm driving down the road, and there's more farming areas over in that area, probably over down south as well. But in that area, I happen to be going, towards Rehoboth, Delaware, and I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, got the windows down. I love to drive with the windows down just for this reason. And all of a sudden, there's this bouquet coming through the window, and I knew that somebody had alfalfa on the ground, and they were baling hay. That's another one of those smells, as many times I grew up with it out there in Kansas. Or corn after a rain, corn that's already tasseled, and after a rain you drive by a cornfield, you'll know it immediately. And I can actually tell you, driving, when I smell a hayfield, I don't know if I can tell the difference between prairie hay or brome hay. I don't know, but I can definitely tell the difference between prairie hay and alfalfa. So my point being is the smell is so critical. I mean, even with our own memories, you can see how it plays. But with a cat, I guess I'm thinking that is one of their priorities, in other words, their method of identification. So I'm guessing over time, and then familiarity, seeing the same cat, and, after about 100 sniffs of Rowdy's rear end, you got to get that in. Then all of a sudden, the emperor started piecing it together. And he's going, I think I know you. We've met, haven't we? Where have we? And poor Rowdy's like, yeah, man. Yeah, it's me, Rowdy.
I miss you,
so,
man.
Anyway, we've got a little video here, huh?
We got a little
video here.
Clip, and
I had one.
Some play-by-play.
Yeah, and my lovely wife, and I hate to say it, it's like anything else. You hate it when your wife is right. Because she's always deriding me.
You're used to it.
Yeah, I am. I'm beat down, but she's always deriding me because I don't know how to run my the cell phone camera, and I'm thinking, I take better pictures than that. But then this morning, I'm looking. Last night there was a video of these two, and they were in the bedroom, and they were it looked like WWE basically. Whoa. They were wrestling and doing all this stuff. And I thought I had the video, and this morning I said, well, I got a picture, but it was the still. I don't think I'd started it, so somehow it started out with my lower extremities, and I'm going, so I erased it. And then I realized, I think I just screwed up. But we still got an interesting video.
We're going to let the audience decide
exactly.
on your...
this will melt your heart.
Spielberg.
Yeah. Okay, so right here you see that the Love Fest is back on. And actually you can see the Emperor's a little bit more interested in getting his needs met, but now he's going to meet Rowdy halfway. But interesting enough, and this is where I left them this morning when I came over here. This is exactly where they were. That's where they, at the foot of our bed, my wife and I's bed, and you can see that they obviously they're back in love. So everything's happy in the Riggins household. I got to tell you, it was stressful for us to see. really, and it's kind of where Prince, that's the big cat's name, the older cat. He for me and for Coco and for Lisa Marie, he was just such a little pill. He blew his tail up, the size of a can of motor oil, which you never see anymore because they're all in plastic jugs. But his tail got this big around, and he hunched his back, and the hair on the back, and then it made Rowdy. Yeah, and it made Rowdy. He'd kind of try to turn sideways, make himself look bigger. But he really just wanted to be friends. But this went on for a good week, and slowly but surely, then Prince would tolerate Rowdy being in his presence
to get him deprogrammed off and get him out of the gang.
And then, like I said, after the 100th sniff of the rear end, it was like, hey, I got it, I got you, I know where we met. Oh hell, we're good friends, ain't we?
Will you accept my apology?
Yeah, we used to get along. We used to get along swimmingly.
Now we actually, you are the hardest working man I know, and given your age and your let's just go with your line of work.
Well, let's start off with this one, and I realized this a long time ago, and I tell this to people, that I am a blue-collar guy, because I can't see myself in the corner office. I'm not an indoors guy. That's part of the reason, I suppose, maybe, although baseball would have been a better move, golf maybe even better, if you're thinking in the world of sports, wanting to be outside. Actually, golf for sure is a better alternative.
Yes.
Better alternative by far.
Nice little walk.
But yeah, and actually it would have ruined me as a player had I ended up in the team that played in a dome. Right. It's like, and when we used to play in the domes is like
artificial,
concrete.
Cares?
And the turf and all that stuff that goes with it is just unacceptable. But yeah, that's who I am. I'm an outdoor guy, and I've always kind of, having grown up not on the farm, but my dad had some property where we had to work on a farm, and then growing up with the farmers around Centralia, helping them put up hay or whatever help that they needed. You kind of see yourself as, didn't ever really learn the nuances of actually growing crops and all that stuff. But I plow, disc, and all that stuff. Now, you want me to put seed in the ground? You want to be careful with that. Don't give me a plant or anything. I could mess stuff up pretty quickly. But yeah, that's who I've always been. And even to this day, I would rather go out. Certainly I used to, but nowadays I'm starting to think that corner office might not be a bad place to be.
Well, maybe hire, small staff to help, a small staff to help you around, because you've got a pretty good-sized piece of property there.
Well, let me tell you something about that, though. I just can't pay those kind of wages. It irks me. I used to put up hay for $1 an hour. And when I hear $15, but I got to admit, that was, almost, 65, or, not 65, 55 years ago, when I was a teenager or whatever, for $1 an hour. And I think by the end of it, maybe we're making $1.25, but that wasn't everybody that would pay it. They go, hey, last time you worked there, you got $1 an hour. That's what I'm paying, $1 an hour. You're not getting no $1.25.
So how long have you been in this new house with this?
10 years.
10 years? Mm-hmm. Okay. I can honestly say, I don't recall a single time where you have given others the opportunity to come and do some handiwork, some yard work.
No, I did. I did one time.
Where you've been satisfied with the performance.
That was it. I had some people over here last year, and I had them sow some seed for me. And I was not. When I saw, I think I told you this. When I saw the guy out there pushing the broadcast, with the seed, and he's doing this, walking, looking at some video. I'm going, this ain't working out for me. I let him finish, but I'm going, you out. That ain't never happening again. I should have. I look back on it now, and I should have went out there and said, put the phone away. Dude, you're working here. I don't know where you are, but you're here.
I'm docking your wages.
Oh, I don't know. But like I said, it just irks me when, and particularly nowadays, if a guy came out, nowadays I'm at the point where it's crazy. But $20 an hour to go do what I'm doing, I guess I'd pay somebody $20 an hour, because 99% of the time they come around and say, okay, what do you want me to do? Okay, that'll be like $300. Well, if you're not 100% sure how long it's going to take, you do the math, and all of a sudden they're making like $50, $60 an hour. Now, I've got a carpenter that's worked at my house, and this guy is the real deal. I think he can make furniture if he really wanted to. In fact, he made my benches downstairs in the shop. This guy, and he charges $50 an hour, okay? I had some people out there that were digging in the grass, and by the time you added up how long they were there, when I say digging in the grass, it was a sprinkler crew for your lawn, irrigation system. Uh-huh. These guys were digging holes for $70 an hour when I added it up when I got the bill. So that kind of stuff just irks me when you get, and that's kind of the way it is, you know, that people are really, when it comes to this type of work, it's very expensive for whatever reason if you want. So I just refuse to pay that, and that's why I end up doing it. But more than anything, if I pay it and you don't get what you want, that really gets frustrating.
Well, we are,
or what you thought you were going to get.
I mean, by far and away, we are in a very wealthy area, the number one in the entire country in these jurisdictions.
We got
where
Fairfax
we live, and there's
Loudon.
not a ton of blue collar, which is a great shortage in a lot of trades and industries.
Must be.
So supply and demand. So they're getting those wages all day long.
Yeah.
Your daughter Coco put together a really cool video.
Unknowns to me.
I thought you had seen this. So let's, as Warner Wolf used to say, let's go to the videotape.
Okay.
So, John, what the hell was going on in that video? What were you doing?
Okay. 10 years ago, we're talking about how long I've been in this property, I planted 121 emerald green arborvitaes, right? I planted 80 some of them all by myself. When I say all by myself, I did have a bobcat, and I was able to drop them in, dig the hole and all that stuff with the bobcat, but I pretty much put 80 some of those. I had help on 40 of them, so I had 2 loads I did by myself. Well, all of a sudden now, after 10 years, we've had trouble with them. But I've noticed that in different areas of the property, these trees have blown over. Well, what happened right here, the end tree between my neighbor and I, the bigger trees, there's some other smaller trees that connect there and go on. This thing blew completely over on my neighbor's property, and so the part you don't notice that you can see at the very top, you'll see there's kind of a line across there. That's a rope.
Right. And
I tied it to the actual tree. And then I backed, because it was about 50 foot of rope, and I put a couple of loops. In the beginning, I couldn't get it up. I was like, and I had it wrapped around my back and, and between my legs and trying to back it out, and I mean, it just wouldn't come up. Finally, I tied a couple of loops on the end of the rope, and I was able to get enough leverage that I was able to horse it back up into a vertical position. Other than that, I could have went and got the truck and got a longer rope, and I was trying to cut a corner because I'd already had to do it once. This is the second time that tree blew down, and I had it staked once, but the dead man I used was only 15 inches long, and I thought would hold it, but it didn't. So I went and got a 30-incher. And that's what I'm doing right here. You see it kind of looks like I'm changing a semi-tire. I'm torquing off the lug nut, but actually that's a breakover bar that I pulled out of my tool chest because the eye of the dead man is only so big around, and so that's what I was screwing into the ground. And you saw earlier I had a bar there, and I was busting up. There was I hit rock about 6 inches down, sand, gravel,
oil.
Oh God, I'm telling you, it was like, and then it's like that property. Everything you do there is. It's like being at the Olympics in the gymnastic events where there's a degree of difficulty. Everything. Todd, you can't do anything at this property where there's not a degree of difficulty. If it isn't, you're hitting rocks in the yard. You're in the back. You're on almost like an 85-degree angle where you can't hardly stand up without tumbling down the hill. It's just like I've never seen anything like it. Then you throw in the humidity and there's no breeze there.
There's a lot going on back there.
And that's when I say
it's beautiful. With beauty, with beauty comes challenges.
But that's when I say when I kind of got into that, where you're kind of maybe that corner office wasn't such a bad idea.
You said you were torquing?
Yeah, well, when you're torquing stuff.
I mean, some people torque, but you actually torque?
Torque, yeah.
Okay.
Torque wrench.
Torque.
You twist. Torque. It's a physics term, I believe. Foot-pounds,
Yes.
pound-feet, newtons something. I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's what I was doing. I finally got it down. Now we'll see. It got to the point where it was almost impossible for me to get it because I think I hit rock again, so I had to stop. But I got most of it into the ground, that, like I said, 30-incher, and I'm thinking, man, if it pulls this stuff out, I'm just going to let the tree die. To hell with it. Because this is the second time. Then there was another tree down the corner that had blown over into the yard, and I had to do the same thing with it, and I got the come along, which is basically, a mechanical advantage, where you and it's ratcheted, so you can just keep pulling something together. And I got it up to a point, and then I was able to pull it up, but I didn't, and the root ball in it was so small, I think the thing's gone, so I just leaned it up against the next tree. I'll deal with it later, because then I was going to have to stake it in 4 different directions, and I'm going, like you say, I don't think the the juice is worth the squeeze, so I was going to have to slide on that one. But
so when you called me, yes, I checked in with you. We had some business to do, and you were huffing and puffing. I was like, you already telling me how whipped you were, and
that's the word.
You said, if a 120-pound guy came up and then you said, I'm backing up my car and I almost hit a biker. My first instinct was, wow, there's like Hell's Angel division over in Cabin John, Potomac, maybe. And
they come down. They terrorize the park.
Riggo's Breaking Bad or whatever.
A biker, yeah. Well, to me, there's 2 kinds of bikers. They're the kind that wear the Speedos, and and then you got the kind that wear black leather jackets.
You were the
This guy did not have a black leather jacket on. I felt terrible because I'm backing my car up there right on the on the road I'm on, because I was having to yank one of these dead trees out. This is actually a green giant that wasn't so green, pretty much a brown giant. But anyway, I was backing my truck up so I could get to the chain that I had out on the road. And I'm backing up, and I'm backing them all in there. And hey, whoa, whoa, whoa! And I look in a rear view mirror finally, and I can. So this guy was up on my property, basically right there beside the road. I'd backed him into there, but like I said, I got a stiff neck on top of this because, so I can't really turn around and, see
to
make sure. So if you're in my blind spot, because I just use my mirrors, if you're in my blind spot, all you're going to get out of me is, hey, I'm sorry. And that's what.
Spandex biker, not leather jacket biker.
Yeah, he was wearing spandex. And when he went by, I said, hey, man, I'm sorry. That's all right. But I think he was waiting to see what kind of attitude I had, because I think down deep he was kind of like,
get what you give.
Yeah. So that was a little tense yesterday, but everything worked out.
Well, you know what? It's going to rain. It's going to rain really hard here, supposedly, like the next day and a half.
Well, that's going to set me back because I've been mowing my lawn like it's going out of style. I think I mowed it in the last week. I think I've mowed it at least 3 times. I know in the last 10 days I've mowed it 4 times.
Because I thought you were losing ground.
But with rain and you can't go out and mow, it's going to grow again. And I got then I got to cut it at the same setting till I can get back out and wait a couple of days and then go back and take it down, because I got to get it lower to plant this grass seed,
Right.
And that gets me into a whole other thing. I got another little predicament here, where I ordered some grass seed, Todd, about 10 days ago, and the grass seed shows up, and I thought, okay, great, the grass seed's here, and it looks like it's a shoebox. It looks like a shoebox. I don't think anything about it. I pick it up and I'm going, I ordered 10 pounds of seed. This is awful light. So I go and I got scales in the house there. I went, wait, sure enough, 5 pounds. And I don't think so I send off an email and said, hey, man, you shorted me 5 pounds of grass seed. And I get back a photograph of the shipping label that was sent. And it says there were two bags of seed in that box, 2 5-pound bags of seed in that box. And the label shows, it's a UPS, and it shows 12 pounds. And the shipping label, and I'm sitting here going, there's 1 box and there's 1 bag of seed, and on top of this you couldn't get, this is the proverbial 10 pounds of seed in a 5-pound box. You couldn't get 10 pounds. You couldn't get another 2 pounds of seed in this box. So I take a picture of the box with a ruler so you can see it, and I gave the dimensions. The box was 12 inches long, 7.5 inches deep, and 5 inches wide, right? That's how big it is. So you physically cannot put 10 pounds of seed in that small of a box. So when I sent this, when like I said, I sent this, got this letter back, or I got this email back saying that there were 2 5-pound, and I'm thinking, and here's a shipping label to prove it. And I'm thinking to myself, how would you go on the fact that you've got a label that says, it doesn't say anything, doesn't tell you anything? It's just like, well, this is what they put on it. And I said, more than likely what happened is you got the label switched. Somebody got 10 pounds of seed that ordered 5 pounds, and somebody got 5 pounds of seed that ordered 10
So
pounds.
it's not like you got grass seed jacked per se, like somebody took one of the bags out of your box.
No. When they were putting this together, they were putting orders together. They took the label that was supposed to be on my box and put it on somebody, or put it on somebody else's box.
10 pound box got a 5 pound.
Exactly. That's what I'm guessing. But my point is this guy, it was like, whoa, you're coming off awful strong. I mean, and I'm thinking to myself, I said, I really don't mind you calling me a liar for the most part, because you don't know me, and maybe. But I finally, when I sent him this, and then all of a sudden I got an email back, and he semi-apologized. Well, he did apologize and said, I'll get back to you later today. That was on Monday. I still haven't heard from this guy. So, and he said, but I'll take care of it. I'm going to make it right. And I'm thinking, time is of the essence right now. This grass seed probably should have been planted a week ago. So I'm still waiting on it. But I'm in the transition zone, so I'm thinking, well, it'll stay warmer here a little bit longer, give the grass a chance to grow before the really cold weather hits. But yeah, I'm kind of in that no man's land, and I had to tell the guy, I said, well, look, I'm just going to get a hold of Visa and tell them, I'm going to, dispute the charge here, because you only sent me half the seed, and I'll get it back that way.
Well, speaking of transition, and a great one by you, because this Washington football team, it is Transition Sunday. This is a big deal for them. Week 3 of the NFL season. You got to keep an eye on your grass. You got to make all this stuff. You got to have the preparation, right, to get it ready for next year, right?
That's correct.
So with Washington heading to Buffalo, and let's face it, it was a very lucky win. They got the W. Doesn't matter when you look back and say, oh, how'd they win? A W is a W. And so now they're facing a tough Buffalo team up in Buffalo that just smacked the living crap out of the Miami Dolphins, and they were pissed off after losing week 1 to Pittsburgh, and took it out on the Dolphins and blasted them 35-0. So Washington's got a tall order, their first road game. And what do you think the Vegas line is? What do you think the boys in Vegas?
Already know.
Ooh, you cheated.
I asked. Hannah was over last night for dinner. Not that she would know what the line was.
Hannah got a little
Her
sweet
boyfriend,
accent.
Zach, knew what the line was. I think he said 8.5.
It started out at 9.5 and it is now 9. And that's a sizable
He
number.
said that. It's the second largest spread next to whoever's playing the Jets.
Yeah, usually the Jets and
you find the Jets, that's the largest spread.
Jets in Jacksonville. So the Jets are 10.5. Denver favored by 10.5 against the Jets. Let's see what Jacksonville is. Jacksonville is just
yeah. They're definitely are doing hard knocks down there.
I don't see. Where is Jacksonville? We'll
They're
find
hiding
it.
on you.
We'll have it for you by next show.
Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of interesting in a way. I mean, in my mind, you're right 100%. When you get a win, it's a win, and you move forward. But also, wins like that kind of leave a haunting in the back of your mind. And I believe somebody said this week that, they're going to find out how good they are now because they're going to play.
That was Coach Rivera.
Is that who it was?
He said it in his press conference.
But I'm thinking to myself, now, I don't want to contradict the coach, but I've already got an idea of how, and I wouldn't say good, I would use the other adjective, the opposite adjective, how bad. I mean, it's hard to say, and anything can happen, transition during a season. Once again, I see a lot of stuff going on that would make me think that this wasn't planned. Certainly, Fitzpatrick getting hurt was not planned, but in a way, it's turned out to be somewhat serendipitous, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly believe that they fare better with Heineke than they would have with which happens in football. I mean, if you go all the way back to 1982, I wasn't the starting running back. Joe Washington got hurt. And that season of the Super Bowl developed just by accident to a certain extent because that wasn't the way the plans were going in. So, but I always get a little, when you're right for the wrong reason, I'm thinking, I don't know about this, where you're kind of backing into stuff. But what seems to me is, and I don't know if there's a good football team or a bad football team, and I think more than likely there's someplace in the middle. I don't think that you certainly haven't seen the improvement that you would hope to have seen, and you can give the offense a pass, but at the same time, when you look at the Thursday night game, you'd have to say the offense might have been the actual highlight of the team. The really disappointing, the disappointing part is clearly on the defense, and what's going on over there. I think there's a couple of things. One, I think that they were overrated, and that's based on a lot. It's based on 4 first-round draft picks and your middle linebacker, another first. In other words, basically, you're putting together a team of all first-round draft picks.
On paper.
And not all first-round draft picks can play.
Right.
There's a lot of Joe Jacobys, not a lot, but there are a few Joe Jacobys, Hall of Fame type guys, that aren't ever drafted. They're walk-on, so to speak. So you can't put too much faith in that. But, if you think of 2 from Alabama, 1 from Ohio State, and then you got, of course, Mississippi State with
Sweat.
Montez Sweat. That's a lot of publicity you got there because they're all pretty much high first-round draft picks, high to middle. None of these guys are at the end of the draft, I don't believe.
They're main guys.
Yeah, and I'm not dumping it on them, but something is amiss. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of work to do, and it would seem that right now that the offense is the strength of the team, and who would believe
Shockingly.
that? Who would believe that after 2 games that you would be looking and thinking that, and what Heineke's been able to do, and I think, now I don't know about this. But I got a feeling, based on what you hear people say, that maybe all along, not unlike last year, because they, whatever the mandate is, because we can't. Taylor Heineke, he had one flash in the pan last year against the eventual Super Bowl champions, but that pales in comparison to all the campaign ribbons that Fitzmagic has. So we're gonna have to play Fitzmagic because we brought him in here. He's got to be our quarterback. But it makes you wonder if what they see on the field counts, because wouldn't they have seen that Heineke? I mean, either that or Heineke is the worst practice player you've ever seen. He doesn't know how to practice because when you put him in a game, the guy pretty much performs.
Right.
And, so it's kind of like you kind of go, what's going on with this team? So I think to a certain extent, I don't know if you want to say, you're what the measure you're going to find. I guess it gets down to, and it'll be the same type of deal. If this team plays extremely well on all phases of the game on Sunday, and they go up to Buffalo and they play them right down to the wire and lose, it'll be this. If they pull the same thing basically that New York did to them on Thursday night, they actually could have won the game, but psychologically, that I don't know if you get a bounce out of that, thinking, well, we played the Buffalo Bills pretty tough, but then again, it was a loss. I will say this: a win in Buffalo would do wonders for this team. Huge. Their confidence, and they play well once again if they can do that, but I'm not so sure. I mean, this defense really, I would think, has to step it up a lot, and I don't know if they can, it's almost like, becoming an electric car where you go from 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. I don't know if they have that capability or if they've got to keep playing game after game, but from what I've seen so far, I would think that once again you're looking at a team very similar to last year, somewhere that's going to be 7 and 10, or no? Eight and 9 or 9 and 8. Yeah,
it's going to take a while to get used to 17 games.
Exactly, that's what I was having.
This is huge.
The math wasn't coming to me. I've been talking too much, but yeah, and then, you've got, and I don't know, did you hear anything about, did they bring any kickers in this week?
Yeah, they did work out. They did work out a kicker or two.
I figured they probably had to.
Yeah.
Because right now I would guess that Mr. Hopkins is on notice.
Yeah,
I mean, clearly that first kick, I mean, if they don't get the benefit of a guy jumping off sides, unless you're going to tell me that the guy jumping off sides caused him a distraction that made him miss the kick. I don't think that happened, though.
Yeah.
I think it was just a miss was a miss.
And
basically what you said, he goes from missing wide right to almost shanking it all the way to the left.
Yeah, well, he cut it right back in. I thought he might overcorrect, as a lot of people did, but he did not. But it wasn't in by much along that same right side. So, Mr. Hopkins is clearly on notice. I mean, he has missed a variety of kicks.
And he's a key part of all this stuff, because I think these are the kind of games that they're going to play a lot of. I think they'll play, if they're fortunate, they'll be in these games late in the game, and then I think that Hopkins is going to be called upon. And plus, during the course of the game, actually putting points on the board. I think that that's a key spot for him.
Well, Buffalo, it is. I mean, they are in the latest power rankings between ESPN and CBS Sports. They're still after beating up Miami. You know, it was a surprising loss.
So they're like number three,
number six, number six, and the Washington football team dropped, and they're down to 21, so the lower third. So
where are the Giants? Do you have it there in front of you?
The Giants are beyond the Washington football team. The Giants. Oh,
they would have to be, but I wonder how far you drop.
They're 27th. They're 27th.
When you're as incompetent as they were on Thursday night.
Oh my gosh, yes. And you know, similar problems. That game, they were like mirror images of each other. Neither defense was good for it. I really thought whoever had the ball last was going to win that game.
And actually, it's kind of what you said is true. It seemed that in the second half anyway, there was really no pass rush from either team.
Nah.
And once that happened, both quarterbacks actually looked like, you know, that they were
solid quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. Which makes you wonder. And that's the other thing about Heineke is, you know, that I don't think he is maybe the most sturdiest player. And part of his game is wiggling around and finding, you know, making something happen. But so you know, and so you look at longevity there, and there's been no comment on Fitzpatrick at this point as far as his availability further down the season.
6 to 8 weeks.
Is that what they think?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks minimum. But again,
can you imagine having your hip thrown? You know,
at 38?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can't even imagine what that'd be. Actually, maybe I should try dislocating my hip, and it would take all my attention there instead of these other areas. But no, I just don't see how he's going to come back, but I'll give him credit. I'll be giving him a golf clap, and he will be entering the class of Alex Smith, the likes of Alex Smith. Well, not quite, but my point, to make a comeback from a subluxation of your hip joint, I would say that's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, well, the defense, it's going to be a tough task for them to get their minds right and play together against a very potent Buffalo Bill team that lit it up last year and obviously got their groove back last weekend. So it'll be a fun game to watch.
I would say this, that the defense has a lot in front of them, and it's all there for the taking if they wanted, if they're up for it. If they play the way everybody thinks they're capable of playing, it could be an interesting game and have an interesting turnout. But it can also go the other way. If for whatever reason the Buffalo Bills get up on top of them and just start smoking them, and that could really be a problem for the future going ahead with what's going on there, because then you never know. This is what it gets back to Coach Rivera, because he's the one who's going to have to handle it. There could start the bickering and all the stuff where people
a lot of finger point now, right?
Exactly.
Some people are
it's
looking
not
at
there
Del
yet.
Rio, and it's, you know, so far, you know, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there because of the preseason hype that everybody, and I'm fascinated by this because you and I have talked a lot about this, and you didn't see it last year. I'm sorry, those numbers, they were stats. You can have your data analytics, but your eyes weren't lying to you. They could not stop people on third downs. They were one of the worst in the league.
Right.
Critical times in ball games, they could not stop you. And you finished 7-9. Okay, so they're starting the national correspondents. Everybody's looking at them now, going, "Wait a second, we all led out here with our chin that this was maybe the number one defense in the league." And so that's
what I'm saying.
That's why you play the games, right?
If the Buffalo Bills, devastates this defense, it could actually have a tremendous impact on the rest of the season.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking, and it's going to have an impact on me, Riggo.